For the stainless steel carbon exhaust flanges and carburetor flange, you can download a file, a CAD file, at pinrepair.com/minibikes, and then send it to this company electronically, send, cut, send. I think it's send2cut.com. And they will cut them out of whatever thickness and whatever material you want. I always get stainless steel, 1/8 inch thick. And then you can make your own custom exhaust and custom intake manifold, which we are definitely going to need. Next up is the carb and the intake manifold. We have to make that. It's going to go right here. And yes, I am using a 22 millimeter slide carb. This is basically an XR75 style carb. These are inexpensive. I get them on eBay. Also known as a PZ22, Paul Z22, PZ22 carb. These work really nice on these bikes. And generally they're jetted right, though sometimes they're not. If it's not jetted right, I usually start with a number 92 main jet. But this last batch I got has worked out really well. Anyways, you have to get rid of the governor. You'll notice that there's no governor on this engine. It's been removed. So I pulled the governor assembly out there and tapped it with a number 10 bolt. And took all the internal governor parts out too. So we don't want a governor. So basically we're gonna mount this thing, something like this. And we need an intake manifold to do that, and we're gonna make it. So I have these files, CAD files that I made for the intake here and for the carburetor here. And then I buy some screws. These are 6 millimeter screws that'll mount my flange to the carb. And these are 1/4-20 screws, black Allens, 1/2 inch and 5/8. So the 5/8 goes here and the 1/2 inch up there. And likewise, you can use these on the exhaust when we get to that. Same thing. So I buy, enough to do both sides. Then I have a piece of 7/8 inch stainless steel pipe that I cut off. And from all this stuff, I'm going to TIG weld this together, and we will have a custom manifold where the carb, because the motor's at a 20-degree slant, we got to have the carburetor so that the float bowl is flat, not angled like the motor. And we can do all that with our custom manifold that I'm going to make right now. I have the manifold tacked in place. So I just have a little tack there and a little tack there. And you notice how I have my Allen wrench in position, because if you angle the tube too far this way, sometimes it can interfere with tightening and loosening this bolt. So I just leave the Allen wrench sitting right there. So I think I have the carb at the right angle so the float bowl is flat when the bike is standing up. And then I also need to stand it up and see if I have the float bowl angled correctly this way, so I don't have it turn this like this. And after I'm satisfied, and check the cable route, make sure I got room for that. Looks all good. So now I'm just gonna take this off, take the carb off, and just TIG weld up as a final weld. We have our intake manifold all done with the carburetor and our air filter all mounted. TIG welded that all up. So now we have to do the exhaust. So I used the same manifold plate on the exhaust as I do on the intake. It actually lines up really well for the exhaust, really well. And it looks very symmetric since the plates are identical. It kind of has a neat look to it. Now, this bike, because I actually have a plate, I went through the Vermont thing and got a license plate for this bike. I can't have it to be super noisy. So that means I need some kind of a muffler. Now, normally I would just take some 7/8 inch stainless steel tubing that I buy at Zorro.com. There's the part number, 5L, V as in Victor, L9. This stuff is nice, and it's stainless 304, and I have a tube bender, and I would just basically put a bend right here, right under the seat. There's my tubing bender. I bought this, I think, on eBay. It was about $100. I mount it to a sturdy pole. And then you just kind of feed it in there, and then you just pull on this, and you'll get your bend. I usually put my foot on it a little bit. And it bends pretty cleanly. For a little inexpensive pipe bender or tubing bender, it's actually tubing, not pipe. It works well. So I'm gonna put a bend in this pipe, and we'll bring it over to the mini bike and see how we did. So I have my bent pipe, you can see the bend I put there, tacked in here. I just tacked it there and tacked it there, just to make sure everything lines up. And I don't want the exhaust to be too close to the handrail, because if you grab it, you know, that could be a problem, or too close to the fender. And the alignment in here looks really good. It's got a slight downward slope. I like that. If I look down here, it's far enough away from the carb because you don't want any problems there. So I think we're good. My TIG welding may not be perfect, but I think it'll do. I think we're good. We're ready to put it in. So the exhaust is installed. Just did the, you know, butt weld and the weld up there. Throttle cable, I forgot to mention, I use DB30 style throttle. These are inexpensive and they work really well with these slide carbs. On the gas tank, even though I have a shutoff here, which, by the way, you can buy these on eBay. They're like 12 bucks. I always put this quarter turn shutoff on. I think this is a fine looking little mini bike, this Speedway. It's gonna be a little fun ride. We just gotta light her up and see how she goes. I love these 14-inch wheel Speedways. They really are a blast. They handle really nice and are quite fun to ride. Ready to fire this guy up. Unfortunately, it is January in Michigan, so I'm not doing this outside. It's just too cold. I would also like to point out that this DB30 kill switch is mislabeled. The on and off are reversed, which is good because it doesn't have a key. It tricks people. It's funny. But anyways, let's make sure we got it on. Gas is on. Let's see if she lights up. Voila! And headlights. And headlights. She runs great. I love it. Nice volume. So it runs great, nice volume, it's not too loud, it'll be perfect for what I need it for. This has been a great bike. This really turned out well. I wish I could ride it outside, but I'm gonna have to wait till the weather breaks. But here we are, we're done with the bike. We took it from nothing and made it into something.